Well, hey, this is Dr. Scott Langford. I'm a professor of English at Foothill College, and I'm also the director of communications for the Stanford Gen Global Educators Network YouTube channel. And I am thrilled to be here today with a panel of 4 different women, all of whom are featured in this new best-selling International Women of Color Who Boss Up book. And I'll be speaking to each one of them in turn about how they got involved with the book, what does it mean to boss up, and how is this book important to community college educators and community college students in particular. Right. And now, Sheena, I'm going to start with you. And since we have not met prior to this podcast, I'm going to take the liberty of reading the introduction to or reading the bio that precedes your interview. These are in an interview format in the book as well, that precedes your interview in the book itself. So Sheena Yap Chan is a keynote speaker, coach, author, and podcaster on building self-confidence. She currently inspires women through her award-winning podcast, the Tao Self Confidence, where she interviews Asian women about their inner journey to self-confidence. And she's really focused on Asian women and helping them to live their authentic selves. All right, so Sheena, thank you and welcome to the Stanford Gen channel.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having us. It's really an honor to be here today to talk about the book. So as you mentioned, I do have a podcast called the Tao Self Confidence, where I interview Asian women about their journey to self-confidence. And actually, how I got started in this book was through Sneha. She connected me to Tam, who's been creating these Women Who Boss Up series of books. And I've been featured in 2 books, actually. So if you see behind me, one's called Asian Women Who Boss Up and the International Women of Color Who Boss Up. And these books are definitely needed, especially, when it comes to talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's a lot of people who say they're for it and then do something that's the total opposite or doesn't have the right kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion representation. And especially with what's been going on with, women of color, the things we've been going through, especially through the pandemic, we need something where we can stand in solidarity, work together to lift ourselves up, so we can create the change that we need in this world. I mean, women have been negatively affected by the pandemic. There's even an article saying that women globally lost an income of $800 billion since the pandemic, now coining it a she session. So that's why it's so important to have, a strong representation of women, especially a strong representation of women of color, so that other students can see what's possible for themselves. I never had that growing up, and it's the reason why I even started the podcast.
That is a great answer. And since I don't know, did you ever, this is fine too if you didn't, but did you ever attend a community college yourself?
Oh, I did. I actually attended a
community. It happens so many times. I'm so used to this wonderful answer. I want the world to know.
I actually attended a community college in Toronto. So it's called Centennial College. Yeah, I graduated from accounting, never used it though. So, but yeah, I did go to community college.
Well, that is a wonderful thing. I was just learning about the community college system in Canada from another guest a few podcasts ago. And I'll mention, since you mentioned the situation of women of color in community colleges, particularly API women of color, that one of our previous podcasts last month was specifically focused on standing up and speaking out against the anti-Asian hate, which, as you all know too well, has been just viral and in our face and still growing to this moment. And that was with Dr. Mei Chai, who is a professor of creative writing, assistant professor of creative writing at San Francisco State University. So it's been something that we've been working hard on ourselves. And I'm so glad you mentioned it. And thank you for framing it as something that community college teachers really need to hear. So since you're the first penguin off the ice floe is what we used to say at Stanford. Since you're the first penguin off the ice floe, what's your definition of women who boss up? I love the term, but of course I want to make sure that I'm not just filling in a blank or misremembering having read the book with great pleasure. So what's your definition for women who boss up?
Well, women bossing up is really just going after what their dreams, right? Taking action into it, even if it's scary, even if we doubt ourselves. I mean, as women, we tend to overthink a lot. We tend to have a huge confidence gap from men where, if you and I were to go for the same like position or job position, even though I'm 110% ready, there's still something that holds me back. Whether as a man, you might be 30, 40% ready, you're still going to go for it regardless of that, the result. And so women, a lot of women go through that, right? Because of our upbringing, the gender biases we go through, the cultural biases that we go through. And we always feel like we're never enough. We're never enough, even though we are more than capable to go out there and do our own thing. And a lot of women actually suffer from low self confidence due to inaction, because we have all these things that we have in our head. We perceive ourselves in a way that we feel like we're not worthy enough to go after what we want, to be a CEO, to be in leadership roles, to even just apply for a promotion at work, right? So that's why it's so important to have this book, right? Women Who Boss Up, to showcase like we've been through challenges and roadblocks and bad stuff happening, right? But we still are going to get ourselves back up, keep moving forward, and just go after the things that fear us too. I mean, fear can be a big thing, right? Like it can be this thing that you're looking at, and you just like it just gets getting bigger as you keep looking at it. But the more you just push forward and push through your fears, it really helps you become confident, right? Because you're like, that wasn't the worst that I've been through, and I can move on to the next thing. And so to boss up is really to face your fears, to have the courage to go out there and do your own thing, to forge your own path, overcome obstacles, and thrive.
Wow, great answer. Um, Third question, and maybe I can sort of repeat the sequence with the other three of you as well. But is there like a boss up moment in your own life that you'd like to share somewhere on that trajectory, maybe between community college in Toronto and where you are now?
There's many things. I mean, one of them was buying my first condo. I mean, of course, the biggest purchase of your life is property, right? And I remember doing that and I almost had a heart attack because I've never bought anything like that was over six figures. And so, that was one thing. Another one was just this whole Women Who Boss Up project, right? The pandemic, when it first started and everything was closing down, I really thought it was the end of the world. Like I was ready to just, not do anything and realize like that's it, it's over. The world's ending. Like this pandemic is gonna close the whole world. And so I didn't do anything. I went in this like depressive state. My mental health wasn't the best. And if it wasn't for this project, like I wouldn't be here today. This project really helped me just get myself back on my feet. Of course, with the help of my family as well, giving me support, but this really propelled me to just go out there and even like talk to other women who'd want to take part in this project. And it wasn't always easy, right? You go through a lot of rejection, you go through a lot of challenges, sometimes you eat your feelings but it's all part of the process.
Wow, and it's a great point. And again, since a lot of the audience is community college educators, I'm reminded of so many conversations with, and I'm not proud of this in the community college system, but it's not always as female friendly as it should be still to this day. And so this boss up message is not just something that our students need, it's something that all women need. And it's always amazing to me to hear professional women like yourself saying that this remains a struggle. And of course, I mean, I have my struggles, but I do think that there's a male privilege, exactly as you describe it, right? That I'll lean into something like podcasting and go for it, without without the stereotype threat of, oh, he's going to mess up, even though I do, by the way. But I think it's a profound point, and I think it's a beautiful thing about this book. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing some recent moments of bossing up, in other words, Sheena.